This week's guitar tip is about the importance of learning to read tab and music for guitar playing. A lot of guitar players only read tab and some of them only read music. But for this particular instrument, I think it's really important to read both. Some guitar teachers will tell you that tab is a shorthand and they don't want to teach you tab because they're concerned that once you learn that, you won't want to read music because tab is a little bit easier to read. I don't think tab is necessarily a lot easier to read. It's just easier to grasp the concept at first. You see, with music, you have to remember that each musical symbol represents a certain note on the guitar, and then you have to find all of those notes on the guitar. But a particular problem with the guitar is that you can find the same note in a few places. So this is an E, and it appears in a certain spot on the musical staff, but this is the same E. Sounds exactly the same, and on the music staff, it will be written the exact same way. This is also the same note. Each of these notes actually holds the same position on the musical staff, but you have to know where they are on the guitar. Whereas with tab, they will tell you to play, for example, this string at the 5th fret, and that's the note. You don't have to worry about what it's called or where to play it. It tells you exactly where to play it. Now, the thing is, I've just already described the advantages of both types of reading music. When you're reading music, the advantage is that you have control over where you play the notes. That's because you know their names and where to find them on the instrument. So you can actually decide, do I want to play E here, 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 or here? So you have control over how you play things. The advantage of tab is it tells you exactly where to play something. So you don't have to make that decision. So if the tab says we're playing E here, then you already know that you're playing here. You don't have to think about, am I playing the E here or here? The tab tells you B string, 5th fret, that's it. So that's a huge advantage of tab. Some tab does not have the timing written into it. It just has numbers. So the disadvantage there is that you have to know the song and the timing can't be learned from just looking at the music. That being said, it's good for your ear in a sense because it requires you to really listen to the music and try to copy it, which is a really big aspect of learning music. So that disadvantage can turn into a strength, actually. That being said, a lot of really good tab has the timing written in. So let's actually look at some. You'll see if you look here, we've got the tab underneath, and then on top you've got the music. You see this a lot in guitar music. You'll see that tab below, which tells you exactly where to play the note, tells you the note here, but if you don't actually know how to read that, you can look down here and it will tell you what to play. But if you do know how to read timing, you can actually still read the timing. So even if your music reading is weak, but you know a little bit about reading music and you can figure out the timing, you can actually use the tab in combination with this to get a better result. Some tab books will have just the tab, but written with timing. So once again, like learning a little bit of reading music so that you can understand timing helps a lot because now you can actually read not only this tab, but you could tell what the timing of the music is, which is super useful. Another thing about tab is that I think a lot of guitar players, especially rock guitar players, kind of think in tab. I know that when I write rock music, I'm really thinking of like patterns and shapes and what feels good on the instrument, as well as some musical theory, but a lot of it is just like what feels good. And in that way, I'm really just thinking about what fret numbers I'm playing and their position on the guitar. And that's what tab tells you. It tells you the positioning on the guitar. So it's really a good way to write something down based on the feel of the instrument. Whereas if it was written out in music, you might not know where to play each note, and you might not get that feel that the guitar player is looking for when they wrote this music. Now, I have a little bit of a pet peeve with guitar teachers who won't teach tab because they say it's an easy shorthand and you won't want to read music. On guitar, you really should read both. We have both available on the guitar, and a lot of free music on the internet is written in tab. So if you're not teaching a student how to read tab, you're actually doing them a great disservice because now they can't find free music on the internet. You should be reading both. And for those of you who say that tab is like an easy shorthand and you shouldn't do it, it's actually not. It's been around for a really long time. In fact, it's been around for hundreds of years. I played this instrument called the lute. This is a sort of guitar-like instrument that was popular in Europe in the 1600s. You've probably seen them in old paintings, and they read tab. So it looks a little bit different than modern tab, but the thing is they use letters instead of numbers. So the letter A means open, which we would write 0 instead for. B means fret 1, C means fret 2, D means fret 3, and so on. So what they do is they use letters in the alphabet instead of numbers, and those letters have nothing to do with the note you're actually playing. They just basically represent a position on the instrument. And instead of writing the letters or numbers on the lines, they're in between the lines, but it still means the same thing. Like this up here above that line is just the highest string, and this is the second string. And so for all those people who say that tab is an easy shorthand and you shouldn't learn it, it's actually been around for a super long time, and there's a lot of value to it. And that tab we just saw even had the timing written in. So just because you're reading tab doesn't mean that you can't read timing and get a lot of good information from it. So that's this week's long-winded guitar tip. I'll see you next time.